Okay, so we're refinishing this 1935 Model 31 Remington shotgun stock. For sure, this is definitely split up here. You can see this. What I'm going to do is drill some holes through it and run some toothpicks down on either side and glue those in place, and that should hold that just fine. But right now, this looks like this thing has been revarnished over the years, God knows how many times. I do not like to varnish stuff. I like to sand the wood all the way down to the wood and then hand rub Birchwood Casey oil into it, gun oil, and it makes it look just unbelievable. Anyways, I normally will sand this down. I mean, you can see, look at how thick that is right there. I don't feel like sanding through all this, whatever this is. So what I'm going to try to do is put a little bit of this stripper on here, and with just in a little area, and we'll see how it works. Ooh, I don't know if that. There we go. All right, we're just going to rub a little bit over here. Oh my gosh, my cotton pad's coming apart. Oh well, that was a dumb idea. Hang on, we'll be right back. Okay, let's try this again. There we go. I'm just gonna let that sit on there for a little bit, and we'll come back and see if it just scrapes right off like advertised. Okay, I just started to glue this crack together here. What I did was this crack, I had this little piece of metal right here, and I had stuck it in here as a wedge to split this apart. And then once I got that apart a little bit, I stuck this screwdriver down in the top of it here so that I could get this crack open enough to squirt some glue in it. And right now what I'm doing is I'm trying to get the glue that's coming out of here off, because I'm not staining this stock, I'm sanding it down. But when you got glue coming in here, it won't take stain, and it probably won't take that oil. And then depending upon what I'm going to have to do, for sure, I'll show you guys how to do it. I'm going to have to drill down in here and stick either some toothpicks in there or some a little bit bigger dowel rods, maybe 1/8 of an inch, to hold this together, because under the shock of shooting everything, this may come apart again. Okay. We're at the point now where I've sanded this down now, and down to 320 sand grit sandpaper, and I'm going to start putting the oil on. This is what I use right here, is the Birchwood Casey True Oil. Will it even focus? Boy, I got to work on this focus thing here. This is supposed to be automatic. Anyways, it works really good. You'll see on YouTube there's some other people who do stocks, and they do it with linseed oil too. And to be honest with you, I haven't tried linseed oil yet, but because this has been working so well for me. What I also did too is I do some parkerizing, and I made this little block that has little wires, and I drilled different holes in it so that I can have it on different angles. I use that for the forestocks when you're rubbing them down. The other thing I use too is I like to use a little steel tray to put the True Oil in. And just so you save some of this stuff, when you open it up, don't pull off the tin foil, just poke a little hole in it, and then you can just take this out and just squirt a little bit in there. And you don't need a lot. I just put a little bit in there. On the first rubbing, you're not going to use very much. You're not going to use very much throughout the whole process, to be honest with you, each time. And that's all the more reason to poke a hole in the top of the container so that you just don't dump out a bunch of oil. So I like to use gloves. They say to hand rub these, but I like to use gloves for it. And what you just do is you just take a little bit of this, put it on your finger, and start wiping into the stock. And look at already the color difference coming out in the stock. This will give you a good idea. Now this stock was an old, I mean, it was from a 1935 gun, and it was well used. So when I sanded it down, it didn't get a lot of fibers, and I can feel right now the fibers aren't coming up on it. If it was going to have a lot of wood fibers coming up, I would have ran some water on it to get them to stand up, and then sanded those down to get them off. But right now, this is so well worn, you won't have to do that. And so you just want to take this and rub by your finger. You don't want to overdo it and get a bunch on it. And I can tell you, this wood is, even though it's well used, it is sopping up the oil. And so I just keep rubbing this down. You want to try not to get any runs in it, because it'll get runs. Now, after I do this, there's going to be a bunch of sanding, done afterwards. So I'm going to probably do this about 7 or 8 times until it gets a nice sheen when I'm done. And I'll be sanding this with 400 now, and then after about the 3rd or 4th time that I coat oil on it, I'll actually not use sandpaper anymore, and I'll start using triple-aught steel wool to start rubbing it down. And man, this is going to have some real color to it. You can see the grains coming up. I also, as you can see, I've got a stick that I put down in the bottom here, because during this process you don't want to be holding it. So I got a stick that I can put up in the bottom of the stock where the hole is. Let me turn this around so you guys can see this side. And I put a little more oil in here. I continue to rub this down. And then this first coat, you want this to stick overnight. Now see, now there's a scratch right in here, and it's super deep. You can see it right here coming up. I'm not really too concerned about that, because when I sand this thing tomorrow evening, I'm going to leave, like I told you, the slurry on here, and I'll start rubbing the oil over what I've sanded, and it'll start filling that in some. It won't get rid of it completely, but it'll I don't want to make the gun look completely brand new. It's from 1935, so when I re-blue everything, and then with the stock, I want it to still look like it's got some age on it. I know there's purists out there who say don't do anything to it, leave it original, but you know what? Part of this hobby for me that I find fun is trying to make these guns look nice again, and I'm not too worried about the resale. I buy them so cheap that I know that when I go to sell them, I'm going to get at least back what I got in it. Okay, so this is done right now. I got everything on it all done in the bottom, and I'm really pleased with the way that looks. So now, let's see here. Let me move the camera and get down to the foregrip here. Okay, so just do the same thing on this. I'll tell you what, this old wood is just nice. The grain on it is nice. It's not like modern guns today. I mean, unless you got a really high-end gun, the wood grain is just nothing like these ones. These guns that are 70, 80, 100 years old. I'll make sure I get in here, and then I want to, get the edges. And the first couple of coats, it's going to really soak it up. And there we got that pretty much done. Like I said, you want to get it to where it's just all smooth and no No wet spots. Now just hang that guy on there like that. And both of these are ready to sit and cure. This is the second day after 24 hours. You can see like some areas where there's like runs that go down the edge here. We're going to sand all that off, but this will happen, and eventually the whole thing will start getting shiny like this. Right now, I don't feel very many fibers on this one, like I said earlier. So it should sand pretty good. All right, we got our 320 grit. And I'm just gonna sand this puppy down. Okay, you can see that stretch right here. This starts going away in a couple days after I get like 2 or 3 coats on here. So I'm going to leave this sawdust on here for the sanding. I'm going to rub more oil on it. I'll leave this for the first couple of them. I want to fill in any of the scratches or even some of the green in the wood. I want to get filled in. This part right here has got a bunch of hand oils on it. And same thing on this guy. I'm just roughing this one up. I mean, not even roughing. I'm just smoothing it out. Because at this point, this wood is really nice and it doesn't need a bunch of sanding. As a matter of fact, probably tomorrow, this will be the last I'll use the 320, and I'll start using the triple aught stainless steel wire Brillo pad. Okay, so just start rubbing with the grain, with all the sanding sawdust in here. And you can see, like right there, you can see actually the grain where it's dry. That's what I'm going to be filling in with the sawdust. You don't make it sometimes it'll be just nice and smooth. Rub this one out. All right, looks good. So there you go, there's the second coat. We'll be back tomorrow with the third. Day 3. So here you go. You can still see a little bit of the crack. It's a little bit darker. I mean, not a crack, but the scratch. You had a little run right there with it, but that's okay. That's going to happen when you first start doing this. You just want to get it sanded down again to where you're at a base coat. Ooh, I had some bigger runs than I had expected on here. You can see where I'm sanding. See those dots? Those are high spots from the run of the oil. I should have done a better job of smoothing that out, because those are kind of a pain in the neck. You got to sand them things or they'll stay. And it's been kind of cold down here in the basement, so this isn't drying as well. I can feel it right now. It's kind of... I'm just using a little plastic scraper to get those off. Definitely watch that. I think this is day 4. I'm losing count. I like the way it's coming out. It's starting to look really smooth. The scratch is nearly gone as far as it's flush. And so I'm going to do, this is 400 grit. I'm just going to hit this with 400 grit, and then from here on out for the next 3 coats I'm going to be using the wool, the triple aught wool. I mean, I'm not really even hitting this hard. I mean, there's no rough spots on here from fibers of the wood standing up that you get sometimes after oiling it. And we're just gonna hit it here. Oh yeah, and it goes without saying, always sand with the grain. This is really nice. And if you're sandpaper starts on, I see a little brass brush you clean out pores. I'm not really hitting this hard. This is just a real surface sand. I'm not really trying to remove any wood here. And now that this wood is so smooth, it's starting to take less and less oil on here. Come around over here to this side. And this is the last one that I'm going to be doing with the leftover sand slurry on here. After this, I'll be hitting it with the steel wool, and then I'll be blowing off whatever wood grain is on here that's left over. And at this point, you really want a thin coat on here. You don't want it all caked up on here to where it's running. You don't want any runs. So that's why I keep rubbing it over with my hands to make sure that I get all of that off. And it's just a really thin coat of the oil on here. Okay, leave that go for another night to harden up. You could actually come back in a couple hours and hit it, but I like to let it really soak in and dry overnight. It seems, for me, it seems to work better. But it's starting to dry pretty fast because I'm using a really thin coat. So we'll see you in stage number 5 coming up. Day 5. I got to tell you, this is looking so good right now that you could almost leave it at this point if you like just a flat finished wood, a satin kind of finished wood. I mean, this does look really good right now. Same thing with this, but I like my stocks glossy, and I like the wood grain to look like a jewel. And I can't. That just doesn't want to focus. Go figure. I thought this thing had a close focal range. Oh well. So now we're going to just use the steel wool to rub this down, and this won't really make a lot of sawdust. It just is a smoother. Right now, I just take very little to start covering this up. Looking good. Okay, that's day 5. Okay, on my little jeweler's lathe, I just made a couple of dowel rods from a cedar tree that I had here. And I'm gonna fix this stock because the glue didn't take, and the metal shaft that goes into the receiver that goes in here, it must not be straight, so whenever I turned it, it just split where I had glued it, and you can see the 2 cracks. So what I just got through is I just got through setting up my drill press because I want to drill this down until it goes right about there. I don't want to go all the way through. I'm going to go through the bottom of it. And then what I'm going to do is take this piece of wood off and put some glue in there, stick it back in, and then drive these dowels inside the stock in the hole that I drilled and clamp that all back together. So what I did was I measured the diameter of the drill bit, and I made these guys just a hair smaller so that I can drive them in there. Sucks because I went through all that work getting the stock all nice and pretty, and I thought that glue was going to hold, but you could tell when I took it apart, the wood that's in there is real dark. I'll show you guys. So it's been cracked for years, and just hand oil and everything has gone in there, and that's why the glue didn't hold. Alrighty, here we go. Hopefully I didn't go through the back, and I didn't. So now I got 2 holes. Let's see here. I got 2 holes right here and here to put my dowel in. And one dowel I'll stick in this side and hammer that in with some glue. And the other dowel I'm going to put in on this side and hammer it in with some glue, and that should hold this together. You can see this wood is just black from the oil of time, and that's why the glue isn't really adhering very well. Okay, pull that piece off. Grab some wood glue. Whoa. Okay, now take this piece. Put it down in it. There we go. Squeezing the glue out, and then I want to down inside of it here, I want to put some cloth inside because that steel shaft from the receiver has to go in there, and I don't want any glue in there when I'm pushing it down, so I'll just slide this guy in to absorb any glue that's going inside of it. Okay. That looks good. I can't see the crack in the back. That feels even. And now I'll stick these little dowel rods that I made in here. Mallet, but okay, those are down in there good. Alright, now we'll just let this all dry. See, we got 2 of them in there. So here's the completed guy. The stock came out beautiful. You don't really see the crack in there anymore. On the bottom of it here, you can see where I did the dowels, the 2 dowels. There's one right there and one right there. And they're kind of cool because I made them from cedar, you know, from a cedar tree that I've got. And then here's the front forestock. So that's the model 31 by Remington. I've got a thing on how I reblued it too that's going to be coming up in another episode. I appreciate all of you who've stayed on this long video to watch this, but I was asked, you know, how to do the woodwork or how I do the woodwork, and it's all from this right here. Just drop a little plug for Birchwood Casey. This is the products that I use to do this, and if you do like what I did in here, they come out looking like this. I will have a video with me shooting this firearm because I haven't shot it yet since I've put it all back together. And please subscribe below. I got like almost 300 now. I need 1,000 people. I don't know what happens at 1,000, but supposedly something happens, and I'll let you know what it is when YouTube tells me. Take care. Shoot safe.